ante. And so it's not obvious that Congress could do that. And what we know for sure is that Congress has never tried to do that.
Well, I know you keep answering it hasn't been done and it's not going to be done in the future, but I want to understand the limits of the principle that you're asking us to accept. So you cannot say, no, that would not be permitted for this reason.
Well,
the best you can say is that it might not be necessary and proper.
If you wanted, that is one source of limiting principle for sure. But also, our argument is predicated in part on a long historical tradition pertaining to what are called—
I understand the historical argument. That wasn't what my question was getting at. All of the civil enforcement laws, all of the civil laws that are now enforced by the Department of Justice were enacted by Congress under one of its enumerated powers. Let's assume that they were all constitutional. So the question is whether it would be necessary and proper to the enforcement of those given the understanding of necessary and proper, to entrust that to a multi-member commission as opposed to a single officer like the Attorney General? That would be the question.
I don't think so. And what I was trying to get at before is not just that there's an historical tradition, it's that the historical tradition we're invoking is for what are called traditional multi-member regulatory commissions. And those historically have never involved just purely executive civil enforcement. They involve a blend of lawmaking, adjudicatory, and enforcement actions where the enforcement authority is deemed to be reasonably ancillary to the other functions. So the kind of hypothetical that you're positing, Justice Alito, I think it's an absolutely legitimate concern, but the historical tradition that we are drawing on for purposes of our constitutional liquidation argument would not require you to affirm the constitutionality of that kind of highly unusual structure that, as far as I know, has never been attempted before.
On the question of giving the members of a multi-member commission longer terms of office. So here we have 7 years. What if it were increased to 10 years? What if it were increased to 15 years and so forth? And the principle that you would have us apply is whether that longer term of office preserved adequate presidential supervision. Is that your answer to the question?
That is one potential limiting principle.
We would have to, in each of those, in every case in which that would be involved, we would have to determine, do I think this preserves adequate presidential supervision?
Our primary submission to you, Justice Alito, would be that it would not be the burden of the court to develop ahead of time heavy-handed constitutional